try and make this.
Recording in progress.
Oh my God. Try and make this as simple as I can. The idea is that at every moment of experience, there's some kind of motion, some energy, there's a moment of now. And what we do um, is either we relax and let ourselves feel exactly what we feel at that moment, in which case we're awake and we're in sanity. What we usually do is we miss the co-emergent moment. And what we do is we think something's too much, it's too intense. We follow our habitual pattern, we jump into our thoughts, and we go off into neurosis. So the idea is that every moment there's now, and you go. If you turn right, you're in neurosis. If you turn left, you're here. Okay. When Trungpa Rinpoche taught this, his favorite way of doing it was very mysterious. None of us understood it, but none of us has ever forgotten it. He would be at the seminary and he would make people stand up. He would get 10 people and they would march, they would walk next to each other, two and two, down the aisle in the middle of the meditation hall. When they got to the end, one would turn right, one would turn left. And you'd say, see, that's how it is. Co-emerge, down, split. Um, okay. So we have this in our Shambhala teachings, for those of you who have this in the letter of the Black Ashe, very much talking about the same thing, but in the context of enlightened society. It says each moment of experience arises from the cosmic mirror, and depending how we react, if we're brave and take delight in being in that absolutely groundless moment of non-ego, feeling whatever we feel, that's the warrior. If, on the other hand, we push the experience away and run away into our blah, 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 this is the birth of cowards. And there's this graphic description. I think Judith read this section to you, right? This is a description of co-emergence, okay? So, as I said, the wisdom is when, through practice, that our mindfulness becomes very fine and we're totally relaxed with awareness in big space, willing to stay with groundlessness. And then it said we learn to ride the co-emergent energy. It's like surfing. You're surfing on the surface without having to fall off your surfboard. Riding co-emergence is a little like surfing, I think. So that's the definition of co-emergence. What are you supposed to do with that in practice? Okay. Well, we have a lot of instructions at all different levels of practice. I should mention this is part of the Mahamudra tradition, these teachings. So it has to do with the juicy stuff, not just space, but getting into the juice of things and letting that wake us up. So in the early days, also you maybe are interested, Trungpa Rinpoche gave us a lot of teachings on co-emergence because those of us old farts, of whom there are many of us here in this room right now, we did a lot of Vajrayogini, and Vajrayogini is the co-emergent mother. This is the main teaching, one of the main things that Vajrayogini is trying to teach you. It's co-emergence. So we had lots of ways of saying things. In the very early days of the Sangha, we used to talk about, Rinpoche would talk about transforming or transmuting confusion into wisdom. Does that sound familiar to you guys? Yes? Okay. So that was before we became Vajrayana students. He always said transmuting is not the right word, but he didn't know how to say it. But this is about co-emergence. Co-emergence is the place where the kleshas, our completely confused, painful emotions, can not be transmuted, but something happens so that they manifest instead of horrible, painful kleshas that we're trapped in, where we're hurting ourselves and hurting others. Instead, we relax, the energy self-liberates, into awakened energy of the 5 Buddha families, which is where all the skillfulness of how to deal with other people in the world comes from, right? Did that make sense? I see someone, yes? Okay, good. So we talked about transmuting or transforming. The other vocabulary we used, we said, so do you understand what this is really about? Where co-emergence is really fun is when we're talking about working with our kleshas. Now, co-emergence, I have to say this first. Co-emergence is because it's true, it's an ordinary experience that everybody has. Buddhists and non-Buddhists, we have it all the time. We just don't know what's happening, right? One of the analogies Rinpoche used said it's like when you're in the shower and all abruptly the temperature of the water changes, right? And you go, ah! It's this moment of shock, and it's so intense, you actually don't know whether it's too hot or too cold. It's just, does that make sense to you? Yeah. For me, the one that I know in the middle of intense klesha activity, I think this is a fairly common experience, at least for many of us when we were a little younger and could still drink a whole lot. We would get into getting into a fight with our partner. You know, you get into one of those fights where you just and you're furious and you're screaming at each other, and right in the middle of it, there's this little bubble of laughter comes up in your throat. You don't know whether to laugh or cry. You don't know whether to laugh or cry. And what most of us do is we go back to screaming. We push away that moment. It's a moment of gap. Yeah? It's a moment of gap, and we push it away. So that's because co-emergence is true, and because ego is not true, these little gaps happen all the time. So when we're trying to practice co-emergence with kleshas, we're trying to catch a gap. And sometimes, a lot of practices, Trungpa Rinpoche taught us to intensify, Vungta practice, stroke practice. The intensification is giving us a better chance to catch the co-emergence, right? So we said transmute into the wisdom. We said try and get closer to what you're feeling. Become one with your emotion. We got very tripped out on that one. Become one with it, because we don't know how to do it. How do we become one with it? Okay. Later on, we came up with a phrase. I think the regent came up with this. He said, he did it in the context of Nundro practice. He said, whatever comes up, lean into it. Lean into the sharp points of your experience. So my experience, it's not really that you lean in. It's that usually if something's sharp or ugly or painful and you don't want to feel it, we're so fast jumping into our habitual pattern of ignoring, pushing, pulling, exaggerating, not feeling what we're actually feeling at that moment, right? So leaning in says this takes a lot of mindfulness. You catch yourself starting to go off into your habitual pattern, and instead of running into it, you let the pain hurt you. So it's not so much leaning in as it is sitting up straight and feeling what you feel, right? And remember, with feel, it's always touch, feel, 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 let go, relax more. All of this is about relaxing, finding co-emergence, relaxing. So what the traditional language in the text, which we didn't see for a long time, they use a beautiful word. They don't say lean in. They say, stay here and let the klesha self-liberate, because it takes our effort, that unnecessary struggle to convince ourselves that we're really here and that we're really important, and that this klesha is solid and real. If we stop doing that, the energy just liberates into a part of awake, the 5 Buddha families. I hope that made a little sense. This is why I did not want to do this before practice. The other thing about co-emergence, where you have like this very common, these moments where hot and cold, laughing, crying, something so intense you actually don't know what it is. You can't put your words to it yet. And I just wanted to mention this. This is a moment of paradox that's actually cutting deeper than our blah blah mind. And it really helps us. It really helps us. It's always a mark of profundity. Bye, Oscar. Okay. So in that moment of, it's like there's a pop that happens from intensification where we pop out of our storyline and we have a chance to feel, if we're awake, to notice that we have a choice. We can go back into the storyline or we can relax and let everything be as it is. Okay, for the Ukrainians, all the ways I've talked to you about allowing nowness, allowing the fear and the noise of the bombs, allowing that to cut you back into awake. That's bringing you to the co-emergent point, and the warriorship is staying there and feeling it without knowing what you're going to do next. And I think you all understand that very well. I just want to put that together for you. Okay, so there's a sharp way of cutting, and there's also, you catch it, you just relax. It's the same co-emergence. It's the same co-emergence. So that's how we practice with it. Did that make sense? There's the nowness method. I also want to mention Tonglen is the Mahayana version. We don't quite know that there's two things, but that's the switch we're making. Breathe in, feel. This is the feeling without running away. Feel, breathe out, space. The co-emergent point. And that's what we're projecting out in Tonglen. It doesn't matter how we verbalize it for ourselves. What's really happening is we're letting the pain cut us out of our habitual aggression so that what radiates out is bodhicitta, kindness, love, and we're infecting the world with sanity instead of insanity. And if you think that doesn't help, maybe it only goes 1.5 feet out, but if you think that doesn't help, you're crazy. It's cutting karma, okay? Good. So that's what I could, oh, there's another analogy that's also very nice in terms of painful emotion. It said to find co-emergence, when it's like when you're in a car driving on ice and the car goes into a skid, starts going sideways. And all of our habitual tendency, we try and turn the wheel the way we want to go. We slam our foot on the brakes. We want to stop it. We want to get back in control, which is always ego, yes? So lean into sharp points. The other thing to say is don't put your foot on the brake. Take your foot off the gas. Turn into the skid. Turn the wheel in the direction the car is actually going until it slows down enough and you can come out. This is also co-emergence, coming back, cutting the habitual tendency and allowing the space, which is uncertain, shaky, groundless, not knowing what's happening, not being in control, trusting that, trusting ourselves so that the co-emergence can manifest as sanity, that this very moment becomes sane. Okay, quickly. The messy middle. Judith was asked to talk about the schism, the different opinions happening in our Sangha, and not everyone agrees. And that the Ukrainians were saying that that's really painful. What the fuck is going on here? So what I wanted to say about the messy middle is there's a lot of pain going on in the Sangha, and everyone has all different kinds of feelings about it. There's a lot of heartbreak. Some people are more heartbroken. Some people are less heartbroken. Some people are more angry. Some people are less angry. there's fanatics on both sides, from my point of view, the extreme views on both sides. And what this is about, the messy middle, staying in the messy middle means refusing to take sides for or against. So I'm sorry, this is Sarah's rant. You get to listen to Sarah's rant. From the time of the Buddha himself taught that only one thing can destroy Dharma Sangha, teacher, Buddha Dharma Sangha. He said, it can never be destroyed from an attack coming from outside. It can only be destroyed from inside. And every teacher since the time of the Buddha teaches the same thing, including Trungpa Rinpoche and including Sakyong Mipham Rinpoche. Everybody teaches the same thing. The analogy is that it's like a lion. A lion is known to be the king of the forest, the king of the jungle. Nothing can kill the lion from outside. The only thing that can kill the lion is disease or parasites from within. And just to be very clear, the context in which this is taught is about schism. What the teachers say, this is why no matter what happens, do not allow angry schism to happen. Schism is killing the lion from inside. Okay, so staying in the middle is messy because, I can speak personally here. This is just my opinion. Let's be very clear about this. But, when people ask me, are you for or against? And I say either no or yes, right? Neither, absolutely neither. I won't go there. If people want to see me as an enemy, that's very painful. I can't do anything about it. If people want to see me on their side, that's not true either. So it's messy. It's messy because we want to be clear. We want everything in our little pigeonholes, who's for, who's against. And the middle is uncomfortable. It's messy. Now, in terms of co-emergence, of course, in the messy middle, there's a lot of co-emergence because there's always co-emergence in every experience, but they're really not talking about exactly the same thing. In the co-emergent moment, depending how used to it you get, and for most of us, it's really that at the moment of it, yeah? So it's more precise than messy middle, but for the health of our Sangha, this is from my heart. This is only Sarah's opinion, but I supplicate you. Try hanging out in the messy middle a little bit. It's healthier for all of us. It gives us all a chance to heal. We have to be a lot more patient. And now I will shut up. That was just Sarah's rant. So that's what I have to say about co-emergence and messy middle. So please feel free. Fill in my gaps, correct me, say whatever you're thinking. Gabrielle.
Just in listening to you, it made clear to me that there's clarity in the messy middle. It's not fuzzy necessarily there. Like you were saying, not for or against is clear. That's all. And I think that for me, I had this image of messy means unclear, but it doesn't actually.
I don't think it's that it's unclear. It's that it's groundless.
Right. Well, no, right.
And especially in communicating with other people.
Right. It is groundless.
And
I'm echoing.
What I came up with for myself is I'm not the enemy of anything or anybody. I am the enemy. I am violently opposed to schism. that's right to me. But can't do anything about it, right? Be patient and trust. Jerry, sweetheart.
Hi. I don't know, there's an echo here. I wanted to share that I learned a lot from Khenpo Katar, the representative of His Holiness Karmapa in the late Kempo Katar, when there was a controversy about the two Karmapas, and his Sangha was very torn up about it and asked him, what do you do if one of my teachers says one thing and another of my teachers says another thing? And he said, you bow to both of them and you maintain your sacred awareness.
Thank you, Jerry.
Can we hear from Ukrainians if they want to? Okay.
iPhone started to talk.
Okay, we can continue. They take their time.
Catherine says in the chat, internal Sangha conflict is not analogous to an aggressive war perpetuated on innocent people. That is correct. I didn't in any way, shape, or form mean to do that. But it is the war is the fruition of people refusing to feel how they feel in a particularly horrible way, manifestation of confused society.
Sarah, can you say maybe
Who's this?
this is Alan and it's echoing? Is it echoing there? Once upon a time, there was the notion of don't know mind. Suzuki Roshi, who was so is there some way you can make some brief comment if there is any association with co-emergent wisdom with don't know mind? I don't know if that's related.
For me, the entire practice path of all yanas agree on one point: non-ego. And how you find non-ego is by relaxing and trusting what's already there. The skillful means of how it's done is different in very, very different things. So I was not a Zen student. I read a lot of Suzuki Roshi, and I think no mind is also learning that there's something other than concept that's more trustworthy.
Thank you very much.
So the Vajrayanas go, sure, come back to now. It's
Thank you. Thank you.
And also, by the way, Trungpa Rinpoche always said that Suzuki Roshi was absolutely a Vajrayana master as far as he was concerned, whether he talked about it or not. So. Jillian.
Sarah, I just want to thank you that, I've studied this before, but the way you put it was so clear and it made it so clear how it works throughout the entire path. I actually did want to ask Oleg, though, because he was the one who was kind of curious about understanding co-emergent wisdom, if he feels like this was helpful to him.
Yes, I think so, yeah. I still have questions. I was thinking about it's thought that confusion and wisdom come together each moment. That's we're talking about this crossroad, yeah. That's why, yeah. So when you choose left or right, why it said that it's go together, and also wisdom part. Wisdom part come when you start to ride a wave, yeah, start to surf, because like we all have this co-emergent moments of gap and relax and feel and lungta, raising lungta. Is it wisdom or not yet wisdom?
You, it's a question of stability. You know, from the teacher's point of view, we're all completely enlightened already. Are we enlightened? We're completely riding co-emergent wisdom all the time. For me, what's really beautiful about the co-emergence teachings is it gives us a way to wake up. You know, because we're not, speaking personally, not there yet where I can just stay on the point and surf the wave. But it gives us a path so that when we notice what we're doing, when the train's already going, you know, the fast train is going 350 kilometers an hour and we're in our klesha, there come those moments from the intensity itself where that's where you have the chance to lean into it, stop, just like in Tanglen, drop the storyline, and feel. That's the practice of co-emergent. Come back to just here and let the energy do what it does without your words and without you pushing or pulling. And this is how we discover the wisdoms, by being willing to do that as practice. And the way I understand it, you keep doing it one moment at a time, and getting ambitious and trying to make it last longer is extremely not recommended. It's always just touch, feel, go. But as we get more and more used to it, we actually really start relaxing and being able to stay for much longer periods. But the beautiful thing about it is we can be as neurotic as we actually are. And it's telling us, yeah, as Jerry said, the slogan from Suncat that some of you have heard. In Ukraine, I use it when I teach level 1. You know, what do you do when you lose your mind? Come back. Instead of following it, come back. And yes, that's the birthplace of wisdom. Wisdom is awareness. Awareness is wisdom. Awareness is our mind. Yeah. If that helps. Yeah. We should make you a
Still
pin,
not
like working on co-emergent wisdom.
yeah. Co-emergent is good. Messy middle, not good. No, I don't accept this concept. I don't know. Regarding our sangha from the beginning, maybe it was not about sides, but I always know what I know and feel what I feel. I was not against, but I was on one of the sides, but I was not against. So I don't know. When you say don't take sides, well, in a messy middle, I don't. I never was dwelling in a messy middle.
How about this? Do you hate the other people?
No,
Do you think they're going to hell?
I actually think when somebody is going to Vajra hell, to refusing the Vajra master, I think that this is what Vajra hell is about. When you close door to Vajra master. Yes. If it sounds
Then you have to feel
too
that.
much, sorry if it
No,
sounds
no,
too
no.
much.
It's okay, sweetie. For me, there's room for every opinion from the both two fanatic sides, but I don't care. I don't care what people's opinions are. We're going to keep practicing together. And we're going to give each other time and space to allow healing to happen. That's where I am. That not going to be enemies. We all have our opinions. No
Okay.
problem.
Okay.
But it's like Family Feud. People don't stop being your family because you have a fight. Say, I'm never talking to you again. I'm never going to talk to my mother again. People try that, but they remain your mother.
Maybe it's good another topic. What is Vajra hell from your opinion?
Oh,
Yeah, because I was thinking about it. I have my, things about it. Maybe you can.
Vajra hell is only relevant for Vajrayana students who have taken vows. And also, speaking from experience, looking at in my generation of students, everybody understood we're taught about Samaya when we take those vows, but actually everyone understands their Samaya slightly differently. It's very individual. So for me, Vajra hell is when you go against what you really meant, and you try and pretend it doesn't matter. That's not going to be a happy situation. No.
Okay.
Yeah. But I don't know. I hope nobody's going to Vajra hell over this. I know that the people who are extremely
Yeah.
angry, they are in a lot of pain. I feel sorry for them, the haters.
I'm not talking about going somewhere. I'm talking about like psychological state.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, it hurts being angry all the time, right? But again, that's my opinion.
Sorry.
Words don't cook rice.
Sharp point. Co-emergent.
Okay. So, dosyć, basta, genug,
Dosen.
enough. Good. You got the screen. You want to do the